Dr. Madlove just convinced Heavy Borgor to commit to the TCG. Heavy Borgor is the #1 OCG prospect in the world. It averages 10% representation and 12% top cut at locals. On his visit to the TCG, Dr. Madlove rizzed him up. Dr. Madlove even drained Heavy Borgor for 500 attack. He might be the new Riz King. Do you think Heavy Borgor will lead Vanquish Soul to a YCS top?
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-minute testing. Well, there's 2 more archetypes in Wild Survivors I want to take a look at, but we're gonna wait on Transcendrakes. Skyhawk, Peeps, and Don Juan need a little more time in the kitchen before I steal their list. In the meantime, let's take a look at the archetype we know is playable, Vanquish Soul.
Capcom presents.
So here's the list, which got second at Italian Nationals, and what the hell is a Borgor? As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the #1 place to go if you need a pack simulator, a card database, or want to read a wealth of strategy articles. They also post breakdowns and lists from every major TCG and Master Duel tournament, including the Master Circuit series. Give them a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. With that, let's begin with Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul is an archetype inspired by fighting games, which seems a little redundant given that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the fighting game of the card game world already. Each of their monsters has effects that can trigger based on what other attributes of monsters you have in your hand, kind of like an assist. Its mainline combo already facilitates its boss monster, Kaiser Various, but the road to playable is made much simpler by hand traps and equalizers that fulfill your monster's conditions without having to resolve all of your game plan. As a result, this deck plays low to the ground and supplements a meager lineup with enough non-engine to reliably trigger the effects of their playmakers before having to commit. This playstyle's already reap rewards in the OCG, where it's a pretty consistent power player. Of course, we're doing footsies around the elephant in the room. There exists an Earth monster in the OCG that fulfills the condition to activate the effects of many of these monsters that, we've eradicated stateside. A lack of Maxi means we can't just assume this deck's going to be good here. Despite a Link 1 and a consistent combo, we've got choke points that OCG players don't. So it's time to see if Americans have the chops to compete with Asian players, something that always goes our way in fighting games. So with that, let's get into the card by card. The Vanquish Soul monsters are interesting in that they don't only contain hard once per turn clauses on their effects, you can't use both of their effects in the same chain. We'll begin with Vanquish Soul Raisin. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 non-warrior Vanquish Soul monster from your deck to your hand, and as a quick, you can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with a listed attribute. Fire, this card can't be destroyed by card effects this turn, and Fire and Dark destroy all other monsters in this card's column. After 3 of him, we're playing 3 copies of Dr. Madlove. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Vanquish Soul spell trap from your deck to your hand, and you can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with the listed attributes. Dark, target a face a monster your opponent controls and it loses 500 attack and defense, and Dark and Earth, return a monster with the lowest defense on the field to the hand. After that, we're playing 3 copies of Vanquish Soul Heavy Borgor. During the main phase, you can target a non-machine Vanquish Soul monster you control, return it to the hand, and special summon this card from your hand. And as a quick, you can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with the listed attributes. For Dark, draw a card, and for Earth and Fire, inflict 1,500 points of damage to your opponent. We're playing 2 copies of Caesar Valius. During the main phase, you can target a non-dragon Vanquish Soul you control, return it to the hand, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand. As a quick, you can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with a listed attribute. As an Earth, this face-up card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects this turn, and as an Earth, Fire, and Dark, destroy another card on the field. We are playing 1 apiece of Vanquish Soul Pluton HG. During your opponent's turn, if you control no monsters or only Vanquish Souls in your main monster zone, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with a listed attribute. For Fire, this card gains 3,000 defense until the end of the turn, and for Dark and Earth, it gains 3,000 attack. And Vanquish Soul Pantera. If you control the monsters in the main monster zone, you can special summon this card from your hand and can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with the listed attributes. For Earth, it can't be destroyed by battle this turn, and for Earth and Fire, destroy all spell traps in this card's column. After that, we've got some non-engine. 2 copies of Kumungus, the sticky string kaiju, doing double duty not only as a removal spell, but also an Earth monster that sits in hand. 3 Nibiru, 3 Ash Blossom, and 3 Droll and Lockbird, and get excited to see a lot of that this upcoming format. We've got 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity, a Rhoda, 3 copies of Stake Your Soul, reveal a monster in your hand, special summon a Vanquish Soul with the same attribute but a different name from your deck, but return it to the hand during the end phase. 2 copies of Vanquish Soul Continue, which allows you to pay 500 life points to target a Vanquish Soul monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, or special summon it in defense position. And 1 copy of Vanquish Soul Dust Devil. This allows you to target a Vanquish Soul you control, change its battle position, then you can change face-up monsters your opponent controls to face-down defense position up to the number of Vanquish Soul monsters you control with different names. We've got 3 copies of Infib and 3 copies of, unfortunately, Unfortunately, there can be only one. In the extra, we've got 2 copies of Zeus, 1 Evil Swarm Exciton Knight, a Baguska, a Tornado Dragon, a Borbo, a Chakanine, and then some links. Access Code Talker, Nightmares, Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn, Security Dragon, and 3 copies of Rock of the Vanquisher. This is a link 1 that can be made with any Vanquish Soul monster. It can't be used as link material, and while you control a Vanquish Soul monster, your opponent's monsters can only target monsters you control with the highest attack. Their choice of tide for attacks. During the main phase, you can activate one of these effects, special a Vanquish Soul from your hand, or add a Vanquish Soul monster from your graveyard to your hand. In the sideboard, we've got 3 Kurikara, 3 Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, 3 Cosmic Cyclone, 3 Book of Moon, and 3 Grave of the Super Ancient Organism. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Gold Pride Punk, and oh my god, is that Summon Dice? Well, you got to put yourself low somehow. We're going first, and this hand looks pretty good. We're going to begin with a copy of Reinforcement of the Army, and then we're going to normal summon a copy of Raisin. We'll activate Raisin's effect. That's going to grab us from deck to hand a copy of Caesar Valius. Then we will activate Stake Your Soul to make Dr. Madlove. We'll activate Dr. Madlove's effect to get a Dust Devil, then tag it out for this heavy Borgor. Let's draw a card off the Borgor, and it is... oh, a pretty good one, actually. We'll go for Rock of the Vanquisher here. We're going to add a Vanquish Soul monster to our hand, set 3 and pass back. In draw phase, we'll activate Heavy Borgor, and it's really the 3rd infinite impermanence that's going to get them. They're going to go for an Upstart Goblin and follow it up with an Emergency Teleport. They'll make Ziaman. That is a perfect monster for us to Dust Devil, but unfortunately, their draw was much better. They're going to go for Harpy's Feather Duster. That eats 2 imperms, and they'll go for a Gold Pride Leon, Summon Dice, and unfortunately, their number comes up short. From here, we are going to activate Caesar Valius in order to summon itself. Then let's pop that card they just set. Afterwards, we can go ahead and activate the effect of the Rock of the Vanquisher in order to summon this heavy Borgor from our hand. They're going to pass back to us, and we should be able to clean it up from this position. We're going to lead with a copy of Raisin. We'll activate Raisin's effect, and then afterwards we'll go for the Caesar Valius in order to summon itself and pop that set copy of Ziaman. That's going to go to the graveyard. Then afterwards we can activate Rock of the Vanquisher in order to bring out the Dr. Madlove, whose effect we will trigger for a continue. From here we can activate Heavy Borgor to dome our opponent for 15, proceed to the battle phase, and they will concede. Slowly but surely, we are making our way up the ladder. Our second match is up against Branded, and this hand is just a little bit weaker than the last one, but it's still fine. We're going to begin with a copy of Dr. Madlove. That's going to grab from deck to hand a Dust Devil, then we will Caesar Valius in order to tag out the Dr. Madlove, activate Stake Your Soul, go into Borgor, and get it twisted just a little bit. We'll draw a card off the top of our deck, then afterwards we can go into Rock of the Vanquisher. The Serenir is expected to check the heavy Borgor, but unfortunately it matches up really poorly against Rock. We're going to set 3 cards and pass back to our opponent after blanking the Serenir. They're going to lead with a copy of Albion. They unfortunately find a Luber off this. We will infinite impermanence here. I think we probably have to. Then afterwards, they are going to go Branded Lost. We will Heavy Borgor, targeting our Caesar Valius, and then afterwards we will go ahead and try to draw a card. And that is a pretty good one. Allure of Darkness comes down, and then at Point of Resolution, we will activate Droll and Lockbird. They'll go to the battle phase to walk into the Heavy Borgor, then activate Serenir, targeting their own Aluber. But I am not letting this card get to the graveyard. We're going to Dust Devil that, putting it face down, forcing them to set 1 and go to end phase. At end of main, we're going to use Rock to get out Caesar Valius, and then we'll draw for turn. We should be able to clean it up from here. We're going to go for Heavy Borgor to draw a card. We are just drowning them in card advantage, and what do you know? It's a Stake Your Soul. Our opponent's going to concede after seeing the top deck. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing Labrynth, specifically the IKEA build. Very excited to see if this deck can still compete without Gamma and people running Droll everywhere. We're going to go for a Raisin here. We'll activate the effect of the Raisin. Then afterwards, we're going to go into a Rock of the Vanquisher. That's going to allow us to special summon a Vanquish Soul from our hand. Here, the Dr. Madlove, which gets us another continue. We'll go for the Heavy Borgor here, and then at Point of Resolution, we're going to go ahead and draw a card off the top of our deck. Ooh, that's a nice one. We're going to set 2 and pass back to our opponent, at which point our opponent goes for the Torby. They're going to set 1 card. We will Heavy Borgor to draw, and then we'll activate Continue in order to summon from the graveyard. That's going to grab it back, the Raisin. Then at Point of Resolution, after we've drawn, we can activate Raisin and walk headfirst into an Ash Blossom and Joy's Spring. From here, our opponent is going to normal summon a copy of Ariana. They'll activate the effect in order to grab a Labrynth, which you really do not ever want to see. We're going to go for a Caesar Valius here. They're going to chain Big Welcome Labrynth, which unfortunately allows them to remove the monster that we've targeted and blank the effect of our monster. They're going to go Labrynth 1 and then Furniture 2 and 3, and they'll destroy a card we control here, the back row. We're going to activate the effect of the Rock of the Vanquisher to get more material back in hand, but they have functionally cleared our board, and then in main phase 2, they're going to reset this copy of Big Welcome Labrynth, set 2, and then go Chaos Angel to banish our Rock. They'll go Chandra afterwards in order to get normal Welcome and pass turn. This is looking a little rough, but I do have an equalizer somewhere in here. We're going to begin with a copy of Raisin. We will go ahead and activate Pot of Prosperity afterwards, finding off the top. I guess we probably want the Stake Your Soul. We're going to go for the Continue afterwards. That's going to bring back this copy of Heavy Borgor. After that, we're going to go for Caesar Valius. They will welcome Labrynth. We will chain Heavy Borgor in order to dome our opponent, and chain Raisin, which allows us to remove the Chaos Angel. Great stuff. Now they are down to just a Lady Lab of the Silver Castle. At Point of Resolution, they can trigger all the furniture effects in Graveyard, the Chandra and the Torby. We will give them a Kumungus and then activate Stake Your Soul in order to go into Pantera, and finally we'll overlay for Exciton Knight and get struck. Okay, well, we lose from this position. So it's time for game 2, and we have opened a very strange one. Teekboo maybe has some utility against this archetype, but a lot of the time they're just sitting on one guy. Regardless, we're going to go for Raisin. We'll activate Raisin's effect, and then afterwards we'll activate the effect of the Heavy Borgor in order to summon it, then activate its on-field effect, and walk straight into a Ghost Ogre. That's actually pretty terrible from this position, except that we've opened Continue, so instead we will just summon back this Heavy Borgor, go into Rock of the Vanquisher, activate its effect, special summon a Dr. Madlove, activate Dr. Madlove in order to grab a Dust Devil, set 3 and pass back to our opponents. They are saving the Imperm for next game, don't worry. They draw a Kaiju off the top, so there goes the rock. They're going to go for Ariana. We will chain Infinite Impermanence. Then at point of resolution, they're just going to set 3 and pass back to us. We're going to get Fishing and Draw Step with this Cosmic Cyclone, maybe a little greedy, but thankfully we hit the right target. We are going to normal summon this copy of Raisin, walk into an Infinite Impermanence, and now I only have to worry about one back row as long as it's not a welcome. We should be fine. We'll go Rock of the Vanquisher, walk into a strike, and I'm feeling good from this position. We can just outvalue them. We'll go to the battlefield and get in for 11 plus 12. Then in main phase 2, we'll make Rock of the Vanquisher. We'll pass back to our opponent, who will draw off the top a Kaiju of their own. They're going to special summon that Kaiju. We'll activate Rock of the Vanquisher in order to get a Vanquish Soul back to hand. Here, the Raisin. They'll walk over, but it's not enough to do lethal, and from here we should be able to win. We draw for turn. We're going to go ahead and normal summon this copy of Raisin. We'll activate the effect of the Raisin, and now that we have 2 attributes in hand, we can blow up our opponent's Godarla. Let's just go to combat after making Heavy Borgor and deal lethal damage. Whew. All right, one left. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and ew, our opponent's going first. It's unfortunate, IKEA doesn't really have any individual card that just loses the game on the spot. They're going to begin with a copy of Ariana. I guess Infit probably has the most utility here. Unfortunately, they do have the follow-up with the Torby. They're going to go ahead and set Big Welcome Labrynth and Skill Drain before passing it back to us. Now, Skill Drain is a problem, for sure, but there is a little bit of a way we can play around it. We're going to activate the effect of Mad Love. They're going to activate Skill Drain, and then we can activate the Caesar Valius in order to bounce the Mad Love so it resolves. What this is going to accomplish, I'm not really sure, but who knows. We'll go Raisin here and then try and resolve it by using Heavy Borgor to put it back into the hand. That's going to allow us to add from deck to hand a Pantera. Now, theoretically, this is our Skill Drain out, but you'll see at the end of this game, I don't really know what I was thinking. None of this beats Big Welcome, of course. They're going to Big Welcome their own monster and then trigger the effect of the Lady Lab and the effect of the Torby afterwards. That's unfortunate. They will draw for turn, and then afterwards, they will go ahead and make a Chaos Angel. They'll go to the battle phase and attack our monster. We'll flip up Dust Devil to flip it face down. They'll Big Welcome Labrynth to put back the monster we targeted. Then they'll go Torby in order to summon itself from grave. They will get in for 500, then in main phase 2, activate Torby on field in order to set another Big Welcome, then activate Labrynth. Disastrous. We draw for turn. Here's the plan. We're going to begin by special summoning Pantera in the same column as the Skill Drain. Then we're going to continue. Afterwards, we are going to add it to hand and activate Pantera's effect, at which point we can activate Caesar Valius in order to bounce the Pantera. They activate Big Welcome, we activate Heavy Borgor, and our monster's effect resolves. Except it's no longer in the same column as Skill Drain, so it doesn't do a damn thing. I'm just trying to outplay myself here. Let's get out of here. So we're back with the deck, and consider my soul vanquished. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. It's consistent. Been a while since I've been able to say that. With access to Rhoda, Stake Your Soul, and Prosperity, most of your hands achieve at least some level of in-engine interaction. 2. Non-engine space. You have easy access to about 20 non-engine slots, which means you can adapt to any meta relatively well. And 3. Teekboo. I hate to say it, but being basically unaffected by Teekboo in engine allows you to use it aggressively to slow and close out games. And the cons. 1. Non-Teekboo floodgates. This deck really struggles into other floodgates, namely Rivalry and Skill Drain. Teekboo is really its only home. 2. Type stacking. Some of your lower ceiling hands can be left with 0 interactions if you can't get access to certain attributes in hand. And 3. Vulnerable interruption points. Removing monsters targeted by in-engine cards can stop your combo or frequently just leave you without anything to do on your opponent's turn. Overall, this deck looks promising, adaptable, and a very fun amalgamation of different interactions in a deck that is playing a ton of non-engine. I expect it to be relevant this upcoming format. Thanks so much for watching. A huge shouts out to all of my patrons, but specifically Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ben Mizera, Brett Henry, Bizen Queen, Chaotic Meatball, Christian Malone, Cody Robinson, Da Bears, Darkmaster Zork, DJ Elephant, Executive Slifer, Gabe the Green, John Piet, Jordan Coons, King Magic Ruler, Knight Mary, Legal Rights, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Materiality, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Mike Carlotti, NH6574, Puffins of Doom, Rose Lapine, Solar Flare the Ricka Queen, The Hollow King, Tootsie, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Vincent Storm, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, Yuki, and Yor. I couldn't have done it without you.